What's up, YouTube? I'm back. I went ahead and I have a camera, a little more modern camera that can do 1080, and I figured out that I could adjust, optimize some of my OBS settings, which is what I use to capture my screen and my video, get all my sources, so that the code windows would look a little crisper when I make these videos. So today I thought I would capture some of my thoughts on publishing, so documentation for projects, as well as publishing books even, which I'll get to here in a second. But it's been a journey. It's been a journey that really ramped up about a year ago, and so I want to talk a little about that, the tools I used, and lessons learned. So a few years ago, I started a project with a couple other folks in the community called the Hacker-Cookbook. And so this was a GitHub-based collection of recipes contributed by the community that we were going to do something good with, right? Print the book, give it away to charity, something like that. And I got this idea that since I had these flat files sitting there in a repo, I could use something called readthedocs.org to programmatically generate a website that displayed all these recipes with a minimal amount of work, right? Let's face it, pretty lazy. So the idea was to use Read the Docs to take RST, which is sort of a markdown flavor for Python specifically, or markdown files, and then build web pages from them. Read the Docs, it's a good project, right? I'm not trying to denigrate the good work those folks are doing. It seemed like the webhooks, they were a bit tricky to configure. It wouldn't configure itself. They advertised kind of an easy button that I couldn't get working. I had to do it the hard way. But it did get me thinking about the themes and how those pages were generated. And it kind of led me down this rabbit hole of something called Sphinx, which is another Python project. So another thing that happened about a year ago, I felt like I had enough ideas and material that I wanted to start working on a book. I had been using Sphinx in the way I described for other projects, and I thought it might be a good place to start because I could find a little bit on the web about how folks were publishing with it, and it had something I really wanted, which was the ability to output in multiple formats. For example, EPUB, HTML, PDF, Mobi, Kindle, maybe a couple others. I think eventually I got to one other text format. So what I wound up with over time, over focusing on this so hard, was a makefile-driven, containerized environment. Here I'll show what I mean by that. So I'm going to add a date command that, because I want to show just how long this container takes to build. Looks like I've run this before. So what I'll do is I'll kick this off and then pause the video and then come back in a few minutes. So 1656 UTC, and that'll give a sense of how much stuff goes into building this container with all the tools, between Pandoc, BibTeX, pigments for theming, LaTeX, GraphViz, Python 3, right? Like all the things. I think it takes somewhere like 5 to 10 minutes, but let's see. So after make Python, that should be it. And if I run date, so 1700. Alright, so it looks like that was about 5 minutes. Again, it's a makefile driven project. So if I type make, I get my options here. And so up to this point, I'd been doing my Sphinx build. So if I make Sphinx, what you'll see fly by is Sphinx build is running to generate all the different formats. So HTML, EPUB, the ones I mentioned before. And I'll give little warnings. Let's talk about GraphViz in a minute, but these are basically digraphs. So you put in edges and nodes and it'll build graphs for you, but I don't think they have MIME types. So if I look in, maybe the docs directory, yeah. So I have in here, this is, source. Here are my source files, and this is all the RST text files that Sphinx builds the various formats from, and then every time it my makefile calls the Sphinx makefile here and puts all the goodies in the build directory. So every time this stuff gets generated, EPUB, HTML, LaTeX, and then that last one is I was trying to do a format for Unicode and other languages. So this worked pretty well for a while, but it was really a struggle to get that formatting, the layout of the documents the way I wanted, get the fonts right. I had a lot of problems with that intermediate step of Sphinx and Python in there. But you can see I built a ton of files when I built the project. So this past year, I'd say, so it's February 2021 now, and I think I started this in earnest, this book project, around April of 2020, so something to do during the pandemic, right? I went through a period of really learning a lot about Sphinx, and then I think outgrowing it and moving past what it could do for me. So I learned about everything from royalty-free pictures off Pixabay, generating the digraphs, like I explained with GraphViz, ISBNs, copyrights, writing a book proposal that publishers, would catch their eye. But I also moved, I think, from Sphinx to pure LaTeX. So, mildly interesting side note, LaTeX is spelled L-A-T-E-X, latex. And this is also, so this format is used for academic journals, a lot of typesetting for mathematics. But you can also publish fairly quickly and easily books, which is what drew me to it. Speaking to someone from, we'll just say one of the publishing companies, they said they use Overleaf. I wasn't aware of Overleaf. And two, I like to kind of do everything myself. So what I wound up with was now when I type make book, see this new directive in my makefile. I use LaTeX to build my own PDFs. So how does that look? This does error out sometimes, but essentially this is drawing graphs, this is making pulling in fonts, aligning pictures. I learned how to do everything from title pages to colophon, epigraph, bibliography, indexing, So there's quite a bit there that goes into this. I'm kind of on the tail end of just converting all this from Sphinx over to LaTeX, but I find it much more robust. Not a knock on Sphinx. If I wanted to do maybe a smaller project, I think I would still use it. But LaTeX for typesetting is really, I'm really finding it useful. So I would caution you, if you're going to do something similar, when you do your web searches for this stuff, I would say maybe turn on the family-friendly search filters. Not trying to shame anyone out there. If you're into whatever you're into, good for you. But some of this stuff is not what I was looking for. Okay, so the other thing for me, I moved away from Visual Studio Code just for this project. I really like that as an IDE. I may still use it, but I've been really finding Text Studio very useful for, I guess it'd be Tech Studio for LaTeX. Not so much for the formatting or the highlighting. So the formatting, it doesn't really align things the way I can do in VS Code if I set it up right. But the syntax highlighting and the suggestions in it are fantastic for writing. So this is what this looks like. I usually have it very wide on a very large monitor. This program has been fantastic for my project. So let's see, what else can I show real quick? Also wound up creating by hand these dot files. So these are digraphs in a certain format that I can then convert using dot to tex, T-E-X, dot to text. There's nothing in that one. Let's look at a different one. So here I just tell it, hey, this is a digraph. Here's the name of it, size. Up here are the nodes, right? And then down here are the edges. What happens is, when I make book, it's going to generate something like this. So this is a digraph, a directed graph. So these circles are the nodes, and these arrows are what's known as edges on the graph. The other mildly interesting thing here are these code blocks. So the code is embedded in the document. I think I could have all these in a flat files like I do with the dot files for the digraphs. But essentially at the start of the document in something called the preamble, I can specify the look and feel of these code blocks. So I thought that was pretty cool. I can change it in one place and it updates across the board. I really am a fan of using more color, like a more colorful document. But also I was thinking, and I have to research this a little more, but I don't want to make this difficult for folks that are colorblind. I think with color blindness, there are some things you can see, some things you can't. Maybe this is a better way to go, but remains to be seen. So I think for now, those are the highlights. I guess that's the end of the tour. But I'm pretty excited. You know, I've got my title picked out. I've got a bit more to do as far as formatting, and then there are some follow-along examples that I need to write and bring in to match up with the text. But yeah, getting close. I've learned a ton, and It's been a lot of fun, so I'm looking forward to sharing that, hopefully sometime in the near future. All right, thanks for watching.